over on the channel just to make sure that it's working. Because you remember the other day when I was doing the Hogwarts Legacy stream?
And you streamed to both.
So I actually on this one I do want to stream it both. So I am streaming on Hogwarts, or I'm sorry, Harry Potter Hangout, Star Wars Hangout, and I even got my Twitter on there. So I guess I'm just doing a little testaruski here, and you're the guy.
Yeah.
You're also like my tech guy. So oh, thank you. Little H2O, okay, and the ginger tea, guys. I'm getting taken care of here. I mean, this is freaking awesome. Like,
ring your little bell, and then
oh my gosh. Yeah, I want to see if that comes up on Twitter, and then I want to see if people's comments come up too, and I can like put them on the screen. All that kind of all that stuff, all the goodness. I'm trying to get back. So I used to do what is it called? StreamYard, and this is Restream, and so I'm still getting used to it. It's got a lot more features, man. Tons.
Yeah, it
more
looks
features. Cool. Yeah, I haven't got the backdrops figured out yet and everything. I'm just kind of going with the generic stuff, and then kind of.
I'm so black and white, dude. I'm using my friend's camera as a webcam, and it's like raw footage, so it's not like a normal like webcam or anything. So it's just like, hey, I look like I'm in black and white compared to you right now.
It looks good. I wasn't sure. I wasn't really, because hold on. Let me pull up these feeds here and see how this is working.
I have the stream pulled up, and I'm like looking at myself. This is so funny.
It's awesome.
It looks even worse on a phone.
Does it look worse? Oh my god!
It's like even more desaturated looking on the phone, honestly.
Oh, what's up with this guy's camera? What's up with this guy's camera?
I just like monochrome, I'm a monochrome guy.
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool. This is one of the things I wanted to do, which is go in here and try to edit the. I always forget that you can go in and edit the clip art first. I always forget that. Oh well. There's no way in Restream to like do it beforehand too yet, as far as I figured out. So I gotta work on that. Anyway, that's why I got my little assistant over there. So Lottie's cooking away in the kitchen. I got 5 people in here watching, so could be from Harry Potter, they could be from Star Wars. We have no freaking clue, but Star Wars Celebration is what we're talking about today. I'm gonna see if my Twitter is up and running, dude. Cameron, I'm trying to amass more people who might be interested in like Wheel of Time, Game of Thrones, different things like that. I've been getting after it on Twitter, and oh yeah, we're live on my Twitter. Holy smokes. That is wild. Okay. Sick. It's all working. I wanted to make sure. A little testaruski here as we get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been trying to get some more. I've got one more, probably like the trifecta in terms of my content creation projects. Star Wars, what I grew up on, and then Harry Potter, where I met my wife. Kind of a big deal. So, and then and then something else to do with all my fantasy lore and all that good stuff. So. Okay, so I'm going to hit the intro here in a second, and then we'll get after it, and we'll go over all the Star Wars Celebration stuff and just go crazy before I lose my voice. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
because that could happen. I don't know what that happened. Okay, here we go. Hey, Star Wars fans, welcome back to Star Wars Hangout. We are back here for this is day 1 of Star Wars Celebration, and so we got a lot of things going on today. We're actually talking about the Mandalorian episode. We're going to break down some of the stuff that's been happening today over in London. I'm gonna talk to Cameron about his thoughts on that. Cameron N. Hansen, by the way, a great man, a wonderful Jedi master. If you don't know him, he's a cinematographer. He does a lot. You do a lot of different things, but I got his website, his links down below. Cameron, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man, this is cool. And also if you're listening, some of you out there right now are like, what's up with Ez's voice? Like, I was supposed to hang out with Cameron last week and maybe even the week before that. I don't know. I feel like I've had to cancel on you.
Might have been.
Dude, I feel terrible. I've had to like cancel on you multiple times.
It's all good.
It worked out. I will say this, a little personal update here. I told you before we started the show, I was like, it is time for me to start saying no and shutting the door to certain things because it kept us from hanging out and having that talk about Mando last week. And I was like, all right. Priorities here, okay? Like, I got to keep my sanity, and by keeping my sanity, that means I got to talk about Harry Potter, I got to talk about Star Wars, I got to talk about Lord of the Rings, I got stuff I got to talk about. So that was upsetting. But and then now this week, I totally lost my voice. I had no voice yesterday. Almost, I was down to a whisper, and I saved it. I preserved it best I could for this episode
Could
for
have
this
done like
man right
a
here.
could have done like a little ASMR podcast then. Instead
Oh
of
my
just
god.
whisper.
I could have. Yeah, I could I actually, maybe next time that's what I'll do. I'll do like a whisper edition of like
Yeah.
my review and reaction to the Mando episode. So, but hey, so you were working this morning and all this stuff kind of came out in London. It was, I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning when they started their stream. We're 5 or 6 hours they're ahead of us, I think, right? In
Right.
London, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So that was all dropping as we woke up today. A lot of us saw like the Ahsoka trailer and we saw some of the posters and the things that are going on there. So now I know I just want to we'll do 5-10 minutes of this, then we'll jump into the Mando episode. But what did you think about the Ahsoka? Like, was it a teaser reel? I guess what it is. It's not really a full trailer, right?
It seemed kind of like a trailer. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was more so I think just to announce like that it's I don't know. I would say it's more of a trailer because a teaser I would feel like would be just her walking up or
Oh,
something like
right,
that and like
right.
so I would consider it a trailer, I
Full on
guess.
trailer. Okay.
Because we got a lot of, story beats. I mean, they like showed us so many different characters, some that we definitely know and some that are mysterious. So I mean,
Right.
kind of set
Right.
up a lot.
It did, and so I was blown away. So the big things that kind of came out of that, you're right. There was a lot more said, right? There's a lot of dialogue, and there was some action sequences. You've got this guy, this weird, mysterious. I don't know if he's an ex Jedi, Sith, or what he is. The older looking guy,
It's got the orange lightsaber.
orange lightsabers. Like, what is up? So that looked really cool. And then he's got what I'm guessing is his apprentice, Shin, I think is her name. So he's Balon and Shin.
Hmm.
And yeah, and this all like the line that I think got everybody was heir to the Empire. And
Yeah,
this is the
isn't it?
Thrawn connection.
Yep.
Nuts, man. So that was huge. I just think it's crazy. Like, I remember when they brought Thrawn back, they were gonna bring him back in Rebels. It was the first time that they're gonna bring him into canon and say, yeah, he was there in Legends. We had the book series, but they said we're bringing him in to Rebels, and I was like, this is wild. This is absolutely wild. It ended up being wonderful. It was great. Rebels is awesome, and now they're like live action Thrawn. It
Little did you
just
know he was going to be the main antagonist of a whole series
I
later.
know, right? It's so good, and they did such a good job of like taking Thrawn off the map with Rebels. I mean, the
To
whole
make it
end of
make
that
sense.
is yeah, it makes sense that like why wouldn't one of the Grand Admirals be there? And then now he's showing up here later, and he's coming back and trying to reforge the Empire in his own liking. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that was really cool. And Rosario Dawson is awesome. The poster looked sick, absolutely sick. They dropped a poster with her, and I thought that was really cool. What did you think about I mean, I guess just the look in the style of the way they're shooting Ahsoka. I mean, it looks I don't know if they're
Yeah.
using the volume because that's something they've been doing with the Mandoverse. I don't know if they didn't say if they're building sets or if they're just in the volume again doing something. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if they're doing both. I mean, I would assume it seems like they started to do now that they can go on location more. They because I when they did Mando, they did like the season one anyway. I feel like they did like primarily almost all volume, if I remember right.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then maybe I feel like from what I remember, I just watched it this morning like once or twice. So I feel like from what I saw, I think a lot of it might have been volume, but I feel like they did actually do locations as well, but more
Yeah.
so probably than others.
Right, right. Yeah, it looked really sharp. I mean, because I know they're doing the mixture of that to get like the backgrounds and to help them get more done. It seems like a really cool tool. The difference between that, like when they started talking about the acolyte. So this is just to kind of catch up on a few things that were said today. In the acolyte, they don't mention the volume at all. They actually
Hmm.
flat out come out and say we did it the opposite way. So we went and built sets, costumes, the whole night. So it seems like it's a I'm guessing that costs more money too. I don't know, but
Oh, I'm
I
sure.
you think so? Yeah, to go out and really build it up and stuff. And so Ahsoka looks cool. You're probably right. There's probably a combination of different things that they're doing, but yeah, it looked phenomenal, and she looks great. I don't know. I mean, this was you saw a lot of Rebels characters in there. We saw Zeb last week. Was it last
Yep.
week or 2 weeks ago in Mando?
I
And
think it
then
was just last week.
it was a lot. Yeah. So he looked really good. I thought he looked really good, and I thought Hera. What'd you think? I mean, Hera Syndulla looked pretty cool. They've got Sabine,
Yeah.
you know, her hair and stuff. They look cool.
Yeah, so are we like is the consensus that this is like picking up where Rebels kind of left off with like Ahsoka going and getting Sabine, or is that like where's the
Right.
timeline of events? Because I know that was supposed to be like a flash forward, like a lot of
Yeah.
time had passed,
Right.
at
Right.
least in
Right.
the animated series.
Yeah, so the epilogue in Dave Filoni has come out and sort of correct he's said, like, when that takes place, he wasn't gonna say exactly how long after Return of the Jedi that was, because some bits are like, you know, Zeb, takes Agent Kallus to see, Lyrasan, the planet, and, you know, "Hey, you didn't destroy all of us, we're all there's still some of us alive." So, like, he doesn't say exactly did all those things happen at the exact same time, or was he just showing you like a sizzle reel of stuff that happened during the Galactic Civil War? But
Right.
when Ahsoka shows up to get Sabine, that to me feels like that is definitely after Return of the Jedi. We're not sure how long because they're kind of showing us that again. You know, it seems like we're actually going
It
back and
Yeah, she was
seeing.
like wearing the same outfit, at least Ahsoka was. It looked like she was.
Right,
That like it kind of looked like the same. And one of the shots, if I remember right, it looked like they were just gonna redo that scene in live action of like them meeting
right.
again, like with her like robe on and all that. So
Which I think would be great. I think that if they want to redo that, that's totally fine because then you can because all we see is, you know, this in the animated version, it's just like it's time to go find Ezra,
yeah,
right? They're gonna go, you know, off and search for because Sabine's sort of like Ezra always trusted me to she felt like it was to stay here to watch out over Lothal because they had protected it. So she stays, loyally
yeah,
stays there and does her thing. And then
in that
Ahsoka's
tower,
like,
right?
yeah. And she's like, now it's time to go. So yeah, I feel like there's gonna be there's a whole conversation that happened that we never got to hear because he only showed us just a quick like this is coming
That
and
it was
it's there.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's what this is gonna be. They're gonna break down that conversation and she'll probably explain what she knows about Thrawn. And like if Thrawn is back on the stage, well, we know Ezra and Thrawn left together. We know that that he took him off the chessboard. So that either means Ezra didn't make it or he's out there, whatever. And we know we saw in the trailer. There's like a little hollow image of Ezra
yeah. I
Bridger, which
saw that. That's why I'm like, I thought I
yeah,
saw something on Twitter about like people like, oh, we got Ezra in there, and I was just like,
yeah,
did we? And I was like, oh, that was him. I thought they
yeah,
meant like we got like he's confirmed gonna be in it, but now I'm kind of like maybe he's not. Like you said, he could be dead.
right,
I
right.
feel like that's gonna be something that they would save till like the end of the season to like as a
Yeah.
reveal or something. They're gonna like hold that out until the very last minute, maybe.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah,
'Cause that hollow doesn't really mean anything. Could have been recorded, prior to it, could be some information they got from Thrawn. It's just, yeah, we don't know if it's like he's communicating with them or he sent out a transmit, you know, so it's still gonna be a mystery as to, like, where he is, where they're gonna find him, because in the dialogue in that, trailer was sort of like one of the droids even says, "Maybe it's time to begin again,"
mhm.
and Ahsoka's sort of talking about the Jedi Order and it receding and going away, and there's not many Jedi left. Well, there is a Jedi out there if we can find him. You know, if and some people, Cameron, my God, they were talking about the possibility that we could even get flashbacks, a live action Kanan. We actually
That'd be
could
cool.
get just a flashback, you know, like or even just his voice speaking out through the forest to Ezra or Ahsoka or whoever. And I was like, I swear to you, I will be in tears if they do anything with Kanan. Like
Didn't the actor who plays him, what is his name? Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yeah, Freddie Prinze Jr., yep, mhm.
Didn't he say that he was, like, not interested at all in coming back to voice him, like, ever again? Like, unless
Really?
it's, like he said he didn't like the idea. I saw an interview, it might have been an older one,
Yeah,
but I saw something recently on TikTok where he was talking to somebody through an interview, like, on a podcast where he was talking about how he doesn't even think Kanan should be a Force ghost. Like, he doesn't
yeah,
think he should be able to talk through the Force anyway, but he didn't
right.
like the idea. When they did
He
it in The Rise of Skywalker, he was, like, very reluctant to even do it, like, say yes to it, but Dave
right, right,
Filoni supposedly said that he should do it, and then so he's like, "Alright, fine, whatever, if Dave says it's cool, then I'll do it."
right, right. Yeah, he's very, opinionated about Star Wars, actually,
Yeah.
and he's had really strong opinions about what works and what the story is and trying to get people to understand what they're doing. Because I think Rebels really captures a great arc, a great story, a
Yeah.
hero journey, and you're very protective of that. You don't want to just be bringing him back just to kind of use his voice for whatever. He's like, there's got to be a really good reason. There has to be a way in which that like works in
Yeah.
universe, because if it doesn't work, then I'm not going to just do it just to get clicks or whatever. So Dave's got to be involved and has to kind of say, yeah, like, this is
Here's the reason.
here's the reason we
Right.
need you to come in and do your thing. So
I
yeah.
got one question. This might be a sidebar,
Yeah, it's
but
fine.
it's something that I want to ask you because I don't know if I've gotten it or if there's ever even been a definite answer of this. But like, you know how Ezra saves Ahsoka from dying to Darth Vader, and he pulls her through, the
Oh yeah.
whole portal to the world between worlds or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Um, Is there ever a time where Dave or anybody has ever said? Because I know there's theories out there about like how Ahsoka was supposed to die, and then that's why she wasn't in anything else like going forward for the original trilogy. And
Right.
then like how when he did that, he Ezra kind of messed with time in that way, and that's how she ends up living, and that's why she can use it and stuff like that. And she's so elusive and all that.
Yeah.
But is there
Yeah.
like, oh, I would love to if they, I don't know. Part of me is like, is it going to do the Avengers effect where it's like we're messing with multiverses and stuff and it gets kind of confusing, or
Yeah.
would it be cool and like an interesting retcon to be like, yeah, she did technically die there, but Ezra messed it up and like saved her life, and then now this is like a split alternate reality. That's honestly, in all honesty, I
Yeah.
thought that's how they were gonna retcon like some of the stuff people didn't like in the sequel trilogy.
In the sequels. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And
I thought that was their scapegoat out, like saying like, they could still do a lot of the same stuff, but saying like, oh yeah, this is like an alternate timeline where Ahsoka lived and now she's kind of like the main protagonist of like the, I don't know. But
of the sequels and stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. And I've wondered to myself like what they were gonna do with the world between worlds, because that's a big deal. If you look at the graphic and you look at all the stuff in the trailer behind her, it's got the same sort of shape and setup, these orbs with stuff around them. They're all connect like lines connecting. It looks like just in the posters and stuff, and where they're fighting, where she's fighting Balon, it's in some simulation. There's weird graphics going on behind them that looks like the world between worlds. It's not, but it reminds you of it. So, because the big rumor is that she's going to be going and seeing a flash. We're going to see an alternate reality, sort of like
Mm.
her possibly fighting Anakin Skywalker. That's the big thing, is that she's
It's
going
gonna
to
be like
go.
the Loki of Star Wars, like
Yeah, yeah, and it's strange, and it's gotta be very carefully done if they do anything with it, because it can really mess stuff up. Like, that was the whole point, is when she was in the world. So in Rebels, Ezra goes in and he sees her and just reacts, pulls her out. And before, so this has always been tricky. Like, before he does that, she doesn't make it. I'm pretty sure she doesn't make it, right? So
right.
it's
Well, we
implied.
see it's implied that she before we know that Ezra can get there, right? We just see all we see is like them escape, but then she like gets blown up, presumably. So
Right,
like
right.
like
Yeah. There's a confusing scene where you might see her drifting and walking down the stairs of this, that, like, I don't even know, I can't remember if that was added in later or something, but the idea is she goes right back. So when Ezra pulls her out and saves her, she goes right back at the exact same point that she was pulled out moments later. So it's like, okay, she's up here fighting Vader. He pulls her out, and then she re-enters down here away from the scene, and Vader gets away, and then she gets away at the exact same moment.
Hmm.
That's the way I understood it. And so, d now, did she go back into the world between worlds? Is she a guardian of that? Because when she shows up with the staff, like the Gandalf staff and stuff,
Yeah.
she looks like she is there, like she rules that realm possibly. And to see Palpatine in that episode, Palpatine was trying to get into that world, and
Mhm.
the Sith sort of magic, like to acquire that and make big changes. I feel like that you might need someone to guard those portals or make sure that you're good. So regardless, that was a moment that, like, yeah, it's really tough, because then Ezra wants to save Kanan, but like Kanan's whole purpose, that's like like unchangeable moment where he did this to save all of them.
Yeah.
Therefore, Ezra can save her. It's all these chain reactions. So I don't have a good
I
answer
heard
to that.
I heard that they're gonna redo the Vader Ahsoka fight that we saw in Rebels there, that whole I wonder if
Yeah.
maybe they'll redo that whole thing in live action
Oh, I
and
get you.
and then
Yeah.
and then, like, show us what happens exactly, like, maybe delve
Right.
into that a little bit more,
Mm.
but I don't know.
They
I
yeah,
wonder
they
how far her time travel abilities kinda can go, like, maybe, we we're down the line and all of a sudden, like, Ray is building up the new Jedi temple and all of a sudden Ahsoka pops out of the portal and she's
oh
there
my.
talking to people. Like, I wonder how
Oh my.
much she can technically do, like, because it seems like she could come and go as she wanted to. It
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
opens up the floodgates of all this different sorts of stuff that she could be in. I
Well,
mean, she
so
could be in a prequel thing if you really like a far off prequel thing if you really wanted her to be.
right.
If that's the case, I guess we don't know the limits.
Well, I was wondering, like, so when she goes in there, we hear, or I'm sorry, when Ezra first goes into the world between worlds, he hears all these voices. He hears all these different things where it's sort of like he's hearing Rey, he's hearing Kylo Ren, Qui-Gon Jinn. So it is sort of they're outside of time and space. So what did she go see? And has she gone in there to figure out a path forward? I mean, that's almost too much power, right? It's almost like
Yeah,
so much power that you wonder what they're going to do. And I guess this leads me into something because you were saying, hey, where does this go with like the future of Star Wars, or would it be something that they were going to kind of retcon or change some stuff or alter some things in the sequels because of what happened there? And then the big news today was that when they walked out in the beginning of the first panel, they brought out the new directors. They showed their timeline for all the new movies that were coming, and they brought out the director, flashed up the signal that said "New Jedi Order," and they brought out Daisy Ridley. And I was like,
yeah, I did see
"Oh
that little bit. Yeah,
my gosh!" I so that to me, because had they not have done that, I thought I would still be thinking like, okay, they're going to do something with the Mandoverse, with Grogu, with Ahsoka and Ezra. They're going to kind of maybe thread a needle here and do some things that create another story that's sort of happening in another part of the galaxy, or I wasn't really sure. Just more Star Wars can sometimes help Star Wars. I
yeah.
know a lot of people think sometimes that it can also hurt it, just depending on what it is. But yeah, I know they have to be. They're thinking about the future timeline, and clearly now they're bringing Ray back, and they're going to do a new Jedi Order, which I actually,
It does make me feel better that Daisy Ridley is, like, actually involved because I know
yeah,
for a while she was very much, like, hurt by all of, like,
yeah,
feeling cheated by the fact that there wasn't, like, a grand plan the whole time, so I'd
yeah,
like to think that by her coming back, she was like, "Show me the plan
mm-hmm,
before I say
mm-hmm,
yes." It
yep,
was either, "Show me the plan before I say yes," or, "Wow, that's a giant stack of money." So, it could have
yeah,
been either one of those but I'd like to think that maybe she was just, like, in shock by, like, that they actually had something because, like, you
yeah.
see those interviews, especially after they were all released with her and Mark Hamill and stuff, and
Oh
she was
yeah,
very much like, "Well, that was a thing I did. I never wanna do that again," and then now she's back for another potential trilogy, so it's kinda
right.
like I would like to think that they showed her something that she liked, and then that's why she's back.
Yeah, me too, man. Because I've always thought that the only way to move forward and get people past this whole, like, Daisy Ridley just read the lines that she just acted. She just did an awesome job. She was just
Right.
a good character. I love her as a person. I think remember when she was doing all those Jedi training videos on Instagram and then like was getting this hate and then people, I don't know, like people were not liking what happened in Rise of Skywalker. Or maybe it was the Last Jedi, and she then just had to bounce from social media. I'm like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? This is like the future of Star Wars, and she's such a good role model and such a good cool person that I just was blown away that had this effect on her. I hated that because it's like when you look at The Force Awakens, I love all the characters that they start with. I actually think
Mhm.
like Finn is great. They did Finn a great disservice, which
They
he is.
did him dirty.
Dude, he has spoken about that, and he was like, "I ain't coming back unless something, what are we gonna do here? Make this cool, make these characters epic, don't just put them in there to put them in there." Like, that's
I also wouldn't
crazy.
want fan service either. I wouldn't want it to be like, "And now Finn's a Jedi too," and then they turn to the camera and wink, and
Yeah,
it's just like I feel like
gotcha.
yeah, like,
They
I
need
don't
their
know.
own arc. They need developed,
Right.
Like, they need struggle, they need all the good things that happen in Rebels, that happen in the original trilogy and the prequels and stuff. So it just they know they film. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, and I know most of us here are. Like you're here because you like Star Wars, but
Mhm.
it's they're allowed to. It sucks that it was the sequels that got fumbled a little bit. That there was a little bit of a how do you put it? I mean, they didn't have a plan,
There
but
wasn't like
there wasn't
a
a grand
Kevin
plan.
Feige in charge to
Yeah,
give a master plan, which I
right.
feel like it came from a good place of like we want to trust these new directors, not new. I mean, J.J. Abrams has
Yeah,
been directing stuff for years, but like new directors to Star Wars to like have their own story. But I
right,
mean, it's been
right.
said a billion times, so I don't feel the need to like delve into that. Like
No, yeah, yeah,
as far as like like there was no cohesion. There wasn't like you can say all you want about J.J. Abrams about how he like set up the series and then kind of dipped with like
yeah,
no explanation, which is fair, but like
yeah.
at the same
Well,
time, like he did like you said, set up a lot of cool stuff that could have really been elaborated on
right,
if there
right.
was like an actual through line for a reason.
A
But
through line, yeah, yeah, and they've realized it though. They've said, okay, look, we at the end the studio got much more involved because they were like, oh crap, like
yeah,
we're realizing we don't really like the cohesion and the communication or just the ideas or what the page that they all were supposed to be on was not the same. And so
right.
that's where I feel like they came in and tried to do the best that they could with stuff, bringing Palpatine back and all that craziness. What they can do, to fix it, I think, is to create an awesome Mandoverse moving forward. You're going to have to explain too, though, right? Like what happens to because Dave Filoni's movie is announced as well, which was like he's going to do a final movie for all of the Mando stuff, like as it builds and as they go that
Oh,
direction. Yeah, that was he got confirmed today. He is doing a final movie for the Mando verse,
I
and
saw
whenever
I
that
saw
is.
that, but I didn't know like when that was gonna be in the timeline, I guess, because I
Yeah,
saw that he was doing a Mando thing, like a send off for the whole thing, but I didn't know that that was like okay, so that makes
yeah, and
sense.
we don't know if that's coming soon or if that's coming later. It's just sort of like that's our plan.
Do you think it's gonna
You
wrap
know,
up like Ahsoka I wonder if like all of these shows that are through this time period, this is gonna be like the finale for everything?
it could be. It seems like they want to tie this together to give us enough leads to where it's like, okay, you've got books and novels, and you kind of know what's happening with Luke Skywalker, and because that's the other thing, you got to tell us more about Luke Skywalker. I feel like
I
there's
would love for him to
actually,
be a main character in that final movie where it's like
yeah,
give the people what they want, like a good I feel like a lot of people would not be as angry about the sequels if we just gave Luke one more awesome send off before all of
yes,
this crap started happening.
right, right.
Like get young Kylo Ren in there, like get a young Kylo Ren actor and Luke are involved in this in the
Yeah,
war against Thrawn, and then like
yeah,
yeah,
yes, sir. I mean, that's so like the coolest part about the Rise of Skywalker is Ben Solo's comeback, and I mean, I'm waiting for like when I see him, Adam Driver, I'm like, let's go. This guy's a Jedi. Like here we go. But we don't really get to see all. It's so short. It's so short lived. I would love to see more Ben Solo early on. Luke Skywalker's got to have his moment. He's got to be Master Skywalker. He's got to,
right.
and he feels like that when he came into the Mandalorian season 2. He shows up and he's
But he
just
doesn't have a
owning.
temple yet or anything,
Right.
you know. It's just like he's just still riding solo.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to get to the point where he's got to get his students and he's got to get rolling. We got to give
I
him
want
something to do.
to see that, and I want to see Cal Kestis in there. I want to see
Mm, mm. So many things that they got to be bold. Cameron,
yeah.
they've got to be bold. Like you're doing a lot of really good stuff here with Andor, Bad Batch, Cal Kestis. They're the Obi-Wan Kenobi series opened up the idea that there is a path, right? There's a path where Jedi younglings are being, taken care of. They are moving them off the map away from Palpatine and his clutches. So
Right.
this group of Jedi younglings they have set up in Obi-Wan, if they're bold about it, they would run that group over to Luke and let him find them and start to train them or something. Like, I don't know.
Right.
There's so many Jedi that are still left that they like Cal Kestis could literally be that character who takes over that
We might
group
see
and
in the new game, like, maybe that is
right,
a plot point in the game where he's,
right.
like, helping be like, you just we don't I guess we don't really know that much about they're very hush hush about the story points of the game, so, I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
I have a feeling it's gonna be some stuff to do with cloning, but we'll see, but,
yeah. True,
I think they're
true.
really leaning, from Bad Batch, I think they're really leaning into, like, trying to fix the whole cloning weirdness from
Yeah,
Palpatine and stuff, so
yeah, they are.
that's a case where more Star Wars kinda makes Star Wars better, I feel like
Yeah,
explaining it and justifying it, but
right. They got to show like a real a big agenda for him in terms of starting that clear back with Omega and you know, they've shown Mount Tantus, which is Mount Tantus is the first time referenced in the Thrawn trilogy. You know,
Mhm.
Mount Tantus is the first time you see it. It's in Thrawn. It's all about the cloning facility and everything there. So there's some connection and some lore to that. So I felt, all right, that's good. We it seems like we have a seems like both sides of this are talking. Like Dave Filoni's actively working in Bad Batch and he's working in the Mandoverse, which makes you feel good because he's in both, trying to find a way through.
I
And
just
then
want him to be in charge of it all, honestly.
me too. Me too.
I need this man to get promoted just to, like, the head man of,
Yeah,
like, at least just, like, the person that they entrust with, like, the through line, like,
yeah,
"Dave, you're the closest thing we got to George these days, like, just tell us where it's going," and he just goes, "It's going here," and then, like,
right.
let's just get it.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I think I love how Jon Favreau has treated him and the other directors as they've come up to the Mandalorian, and he said like he's got all the experience. He's got experience working with Marvel, and he's really good at telling stories and just setting this up. And he's got people like Dave who are super knowledgeable about Star Wars. That's a perfect union. And like if you look at the behind the scenes thing, there's a situation where they did the first like the making of Mandalorian season 1 or 2. I don't know,
Mhm.
and Kathleen Kennedy is sitting there, and people don't want to give her credit for this, but they absolutely should. She literally said, she didn't want there to be. She knew Dave and how much he knew in Star Wars and what he had done with Rebels and all of his connection with George Lucas, how much the Star Wars fandom trust him. A great creative that she knows in terms of Jon Favreau, and she put them together. I'm like, and said, I want you guys to work together, sit down, start talking, and instantly you know, they already were friends and knew each other and stuff a little bit from the Clone Wars, but still, it was nice to have she's in charge. She is still in
Right.
charge and she is saying, "Hey, sit down, let's do this." So that was really has been, you know, I mean, it's resulted in what we're going to talk about today, which is an interesting episode. By the way, we're going to be talking about the Mandalorian. Oh my god! So and just a couple more thoughts on Star Wars Celebration here, and we're gonna dive right into it. But like that was the Ray announcement was huge. If you guys got thoughts on Ray, send me your emails, transmissions, whatever, because I am excited about that. I want to do a standalone episode and video on that later. And I think we're gonna get something for the Acolyte tomorrow. I think they're gonna show us actually a trailer for that tomorrow. So you
Oh,
know
sweet.
we'll be talking about that.
That's the
And
one that
then
I've been most intrigued about, I think, like, curious
oh
about just, like, what does it mean? Like, obviously, it's like a Sith acolyte sort of deal, but, like,
yeah,
interesting.
let me tell you today. I'm gonna tell you. So they brought a lot of people on to like interview. All of them, all of the actors are phenomenal. Everything that they've said about this, about the Acolyte, has got me really excited because it sets all of the actors to say it's emotional. It's an extremely emotional thing. I forget the guy's name. He's the guy who's in Squid Game.
Yeah, that's what I was
Um,
gonna say. I saw him. That was, like, the one of the main people that I recognized. I was like,
he's
he's really good himself." Like,
he's an
so I wonder who
emotional
he's gonna
actor.
play.
Yeah, and he like if you watch Squid Game, which be careful, you some of you kids out there, it's definitely not something I'm recommending. But if you have, I mean, it's phenomenal. But the emotion he has in that, when you see him acting, I'm like, oh, they got him because he can.
You gotta watch it subbed so you can get that, though.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
That's
the
true.
only that's, like, the main reason I watch it subbed is so I can see his actual acting in it and hear his
Right.
voice, but
Yeah, true, true. Yeah, so it was I'm excited for that. I think they're doing something all the characters were like, "It's so emotional." They put so much into it. They said there's a lot of action, a lot of stunts. But what and sometimes you feel like, okay, Star Wars, is it just all about the action? Are we gonna get lost in the action of it? Every single one of them started with the emotional story, the human story of that thing, and I was like, "All right, this is some acolyte who maybe is turned or was we don't know. We don't
is
know
it
what.
prequel or sequel?
Yeah, so it's 100 year I think it's 100 years. He said today, the timeline has been confusing on this because they said it's 100 years after the highest point in the High Republic. So like the furthest that the High Republic, which is that book series that's going on where
Mhm.
there's just tons of Jedi, right? And I've only read a handful of those books. I gotta get back on that.
I'm, like,
But
halfway through the first one.
yeah, I mean it's good. It is good. There's a lot of new characters and it's brilliant and I love it.
My
I
only
just gotta
gripe
get
is
the
that when
time.
I stop listening, like, the audiobook, and then
Yeah.
I give it a gap, and then I go back, I, like, forget who everyone is because there's so many
So
names,
many.
and when you
So
can't associate a face to it, it kinda gets difficult,
right.
but
Right, and they know that. They've been trying to do on StarWars.com a series where they start to put animated,
Mhm.
figures and stuff because they're throwing a lot at you. But and they have to because it would be weird if you had only a few Jedi that you were mentioning, and it would just be kind of strange. So, but yeah, so it's 100 years after wherever they're going to stop or wherever they're currently at in the High Republic. So flash forward 100 years, and I think it's still 100 years prior to Episode One, if not more. So if anybody's watching or knows, or if I got
Yoda's
that
in the
wrong, let me know.
mix, he's
Yoda's in the mix. Oh my gosh!
little Minch Yoda going around.
Think of it. I was talking to Lottie today, and I forgot about it. So, do you think Yoda's going to be in that? Do you think Yoda's going to be in the Acolyte?
I mean, if it is around that time period, who knows how long, he's I mean, we could see him become Grandmaster Yoda, who knows? I mean,
Yeah, we
I
could.
don't know what the
We
time
could.
period is, like, it could be, like, when he first maybe we see the old Grandmaster die to one of these acolytes or something, and then he gets
Right.
a little promotion, be a
Yeah.
proxy,
Time to
but
step up. Yeah. Yeah.
you're in charge now, big man.
Yeah. That would be cool. That would be really cool to
But
see him. That'd be cool to see him show up in that. It would be because Yoda can provide a line through essentially, right? So he ties
mhm.
us to all the way from the sequels to the originals to the prequels back to the Acolyte. That's what I think is really
Well,
neat.
if they're Sith acolytes, I mean, and that's the road we're going down, why doesn't it why couldn't it end with, Sidious becoming a getting inducted into the like
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could. So we don't know, like, are they going to talk more about the lineage
mhm,
of this rule of two, or are they acolytes? Are they different than the Sith Order? That's all gonna got to be explained. They were and the every actor that came out today on the panel was very careful. They were like, we are being as careful as we can with what we say because one of the Jedi actors who has a Padawan, Daphne Keen is the Jedi Padawan opposite of Amanda Steinberg or whatever. And so he was like her master, and I forget his name,
mhm,
blanking on it, but he was like, "This is I got to be very careful about what I say," because he knew the most about the Star Wars lore and stuff. And they're all like, "He's the Star Wars guy. He knows the lore." And he was like, "Yeah, we're going to some really cool places. There's some really really cool things that you're gonna know." But at the same time, he couldn't really say. He couldn't really
yeah,
expand upon it. I think it's even concepts in Star Wars that he's like, we're gonna do the thing that needs to be done, and we're answering some of the questions. But yeah, I was just like, I don't know. The more they talked about it, I was just like, holy smokes! Normally, I don't get that from like actors just talking to at Star Wars Celebration. They don't say a whole
right.
lot, but they were really hyped about it, which encouraged me. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
we'll see.
great.
Yep.
I'm excited for that one. I think that one has potential to be pretty
Yeah.
crazy,
It's gonna be
especially
crazy.
since it's in a time period we don't have anything from really yet, so
Yep, definitely a time where they can have some flexibility and stuff. So, all right, my friend. So that's just a quick little dish on some of the Star Wars Celebration stuff here. Been a crazy day. Tomorrow's gonna be even crazier, so I'll be back again doing that. Just breaking down everything that happens. But let's talk about the most recent Mandalorian episode. I don't know what you have you seen it once or twice, or how did you?
I got, like, to the last I got, like, right before I watched it again right before we started recording, and, I got to, like, the part where they go and confront the other Mandalorians, and then that's where I had to stop,
Yeah,
but, so I have notes up until that point, but I have thoughts past that, I guess, so
yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
kinda wrote down a ton of stuff that, like, little tidbits that popped into my head while I was watching it, so
Gotcha, and that's great. I want you to share all those. So, like, basically, I'm just gonna hit the title for this, and we're just gonna hit the ground running. So, this was season 3, episode 6, chapter 22, "Guns for Hire," and we've had really good, like, I mean, Bo-Katan, but prior to this, just to recap, is she has been accepted by the covert, and she is walking the way, walking both ways. She is who can, unite Mandalore, and so that's what this is about. Her going out to find other Mandalorians and unite them. Starts off a little strange. What were your overall just impressions, I guess, of the episode as a whole? Like you got done watching it, and you were like, how did you feel? Because this has been mixed for a lot
yeah.
of people. So
Yeah, my absolute first impressions without going to the internet were like, "Well, that was fun."
yeah,
I was like, "I liked that." But then it's like one of those things like where you sit on it for a little bit and you start to dissect it, and then you remember that we're 6 episodes into a season and we haven't really done all that much yet, and then you go like, "Oh, yeah, maybe this fun buddy cop uh episode was a little bit of filler, but I
Right.
don't know."
Right. Yeah, it was so when I first walked away from it too, I said the same thing. I was like, okay, this was fun." I thought it was fun. It was really cool to see, Jack Black in there, Lizzo is it
Lizzo?
Lizzo?
Yep.
Lizzo? Dude, I didn't here's how Ez has gotta get up on his pop culture and all these different things. I thought she was just another I honestly have
Yeah.
seen her and I knew she was someone famous, but I didn't know who she was for a second. Shame on me, man.
It's so
Shame on me.
funny that, like, I don't think she's ever acted before, at least not professionally,
Okay.
but it's just funny because I was just like, "What the heck?" She must, like Star Wars or something, or, like, they
Yeah.
reached out to her. I have no idea how that even would have got started, but, we also got Christopher Lloyd in there.
Christopher Lloyd, that was cool. That was cool. So seeing all those people, what I first of all, I was blown away. When I looked at Jack Black, I was like, is that actually him? Did they
Yeah.
actually put him in Star Wars? Because that alone was really cool. I was like, okay, I
That seems
love
like
that
someone
guy.
who should have been in Star Wars a long time ago.
I know, so long, yeah. And he didn't play an over the. It wasn't over the top. He's quirky a little bit. It's a fun little world. It's just they're in their own little paradise, and it's just this
I
oasis
feel like
where,
there might be more to him than meets the eye, though.
oh, I think he's coming back. I think this ain't over. I think this is how, like, they've brought back this season Elijah Kane, who was this communication officer who was just over here in the background doing something. They brought back Dr.
Yeah.
Pershing. This episode they brought back that, oh, what was his name? Woves. Woves is the Mandalorian guy who, like, is the leader of the Mandalorians. He takes over for Bo-Katan, and,
Right.
Bo fights him. So that guy, I thought we weren't going to see these people again. They keep bringing back these actors, and I'm sort of like, now hold on, you got Jack Black in here and Lizzo. I just feel like this is a world now. They are like, Grogu has come here and has helped these people and has developed a relationship with them. They're in Star Wars now, and they can come back anytime that they like.
Yeah.
Which I find funny and interesting. I don't agree totally with all the. It's gotten a little bit of, not hate, but it's gotten reviewed. It just hasn't gotten the best reviews. I get it because it's different. It's very different. They went and had fun with this, and I had fun. I think people forget they take things so serious, and it's like in this big arc, like you said, how everything they said today at Celebration, I'm kind of jumping around here, but like everything they said at Celebration was they cannot believe that all the stuff that they shot is in the last 2 episodes.
Mm.
They're like they kind like Katie Sackhoff was like, I can't believe everything that we did, because they don't always know, maybe they do know they're working with directors, and
I'm
this
sure they
director
shoot a lot
is,
of stuff that they end up cutting. Like, I'm sure
yeah,
I'm sure the story has extra bits in it that they probably feel like they're shooting the most important stuff a lot longer than they're shooting the fun little episodes like this. Maybe that's
right,
what she meant.
yeah,
Like, they
yeah,
probably spent so much time working on like the finale and penultimate episode that they're like,
right.
wow, that's the last episode.
Yeah, it could be, yeah,
Feels
yeah,
like
yeah,
we shot that for 3 months. I don't know.
yeah.
It's hard
That
to
could
say.
be. Well, well, at least it got me excited, thinking like, okay, cool. Maybe these are going to be really long episodes. The last 2 are going to be jam packed. It, I guess, as far as the story, I thought they were going to drag out this whole going to the living waters for like a long time. I wasn't sure how fast they were going to get Din to the living waters, how fast they were
Yeah.
going to get Bo. It actually almost seems to go kind of quick. It's like Bo shows up to the covert, you're accepted. This is the way. You have the right to sit by the fire and take your helmet off. Nobody else does. Also, by the way, now you have the right to take your helmet off and you can go lead all of Mandalore. I mean, that happens
Isn't it
pretty.
such a weird dichotomy of like some things seem to be going by and like they're getting to the point really quick, but then you're left to wonder like, okay, then what is the main goal of the season? And then we find out that it's kind of like to retake Mandalore, maybe,
Mhm.
which is great, but what kind of issues are they gonna? What is like the problem? And then we get them off Gideon stuff, and it's like, are they gonna answer that this season, or was that a tidbit? It almost feels like the entire season so far has been a setup for a future thing in
Yeah,
a
it
way.
does. You're right. You're right. You're right.
'Cause it's
Because
like a very much Dave Filoni thing where he, like, because he's notorious for setting up things and then paying them off huge later, right? Like, that's like the Clone Wars to a T was like, these little itty bitty things that were shown or said once, well, guess what? They're big deals, and then it's like,
yeah,
I don't I want maybe we'll I don't know, maybe the season finale will come out and we'll be like, "Okay, that was the reason for that." But
Yeah,
it feels weird in a live action sense because the episodes are like 45 minutes to an hour, and then there's only so many of them, whereas in an animated show, there's like 20 something episodes a
true.
season, and
Right.
so and they're
That's a
only
good
half hour.
Yeah, that's a good point because if you track even in Rebels, just like Bo-Katan's arc or even some of the different characters who come and go, it's interesting to see them pop in there and like, you get their plot point, but then we might not see them for 2 to 3 episodes because we're back with Ezra and everybody else, and then boom, they show back up again and they've advanced their plot really fast. But we've only seen them a handful of times. And so in live action, like you're saying, fewer episodes, fewer opportunities to do all that. We actually see how quickly this goes in terms of her, coming back and covert and going and getting her crew. And then it is a giant setup for something, which this planet now, Plazier 5, or was it 15? What is it called? I don't even
It
know.
was yeah.
Yeah, it was really so I got it right here. 15, Plazier 15. Uh, I kind of wonder like they're not just nothing is just throwaway. I feel like this is set up for something. I don't maybe not even this season, next season because they'll bring folks back for stuff. So yeah, it gets Din and Bo-Katan working together. We see Grogu goes and has a fun time. We get some connection back to the old droids and just we get more about. I think this episode's more about like the idea that old Imperials are being reintegrated back into society and having a role, and we're decommissioning stuff. They're really showing you the New Republic's kind of uh, influence on the galaxy and how things are transitioning. That's
I
what I
have some
kind of feel
plot
like.
point I have some notes about those topics, so
Yeah, get
you
hit
want me
me,
to just go from the top because like it
please.
starts at the beginning of the episode. We kind of hit some of the points, so I'll skip over them.
That's fine.
Um, I found it interesting that the starting from the top of the episode where they're introing the other Mandalorians going on. I found it interesting that they're taking bounties. I feel like that's what we're used to Mandalorians doing in Star Wars
Yeah,
at this point, but it definitely gave me Star Trek vibes with like him sitting in the chair, kind of leaning like Captain Kirk going on.
right.
I thought that was pretty funny, at least in the main chair. Another thing I had was that the Mon Calamari that is like the kid,
Yeah.
he's voiced by Tom Holland's little brother.
No way.
Yeah. So it kind of sound like him a little bit, but supposedly he's voiced by Tom Holland's little brother. I don't know his name, but that's kind of funny.
Wow.
But
That's awesome.
kind kind of makes you wonder too if he's like royalty and all that. Like,
Yeah.
do we get a glimpse? Maybe he like has an arc too where he's like in the Rise of Skywalker and that fleet later on in life helping out. Like maybe he's has a little turnaround where he's not just like a little kid anymore, and
Right, could be.
it's
Yeah.
interesting. But
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? He could become a main character on a different show sometime
Yeah. Yeah.
with how they do things. I did think it was interesting how they said all it takes is a few credits for their basically their undying loyalty.
Yeah.
They kind of have that line, and that makes me think like, are they the ones that maybe helped Moff Gideon escape in a weird twist of fate where
Ooh.
because they found that little thing of Beskar, so it's like, or maybe they are the ones that helped out, or maybe that's just misdirection.
You
And the
dog.
Beskar could be for something else. Like they want us to think that maybe they did, but it turns out that it was just something else the whole time.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that.
so yeah, the new planet that they're on kind of gives Cloud City vibes. Is another note that I have.
It did. It was definitely it felt cuz I remember when Lando he talks about like Cloud City being away from the Empire and it's sort of this
It's like a
oasis, this
paradise. Yeah.
paradise. Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely felt like they were trying to create that. So, yeah. I like that.
Um, let's see. I thought it was interesting that Bo Katan had never even heard of this planet.
Right.
Um, so it is a fun little fact that like their galaxy is so big that there are planets just out there. There are whole civilizations on planets that people just haven't heard of. And I
Yeah.
think that's really interesting that like, we think that they're all tight knit and that there's like a galactic, center and they have all
Mm.
this stuff. But then there's just planets that people are like, I didn't even know this was here. There's all these people just doing stuff on it. And it's like that kind of shows you how big their galaxy is in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, which is good. That's a good point because I think they want to, as you move forward, you want to explain like why wasn't this character involved in this arc over here? Well, the galaxy's huge, and they're over in the like the Ahsoka series apparently is going to be in the beyond, not even a
Mhm.
place we've ever even been to. So yeah, it's a good
That's
point.
crazy.
Yeah.
Thought it was interesting that the guards in the palace are wearing stormtrooper armor, but it's like redone stormtrooper armor, and they just
Hmm.
have like little frills on them and stuff like that, little color splashes.
Right. Right.
Because as we learn that the guy, the main, the whatever the ruler next to Jack Black is
Right.
ex Imperial, so it's almost like he was like, I have these guards. They don't have a job anymore. They're just gonna come with me. We got this armor here, so might as well just let them wear that. But we'll dress it up for Lizzo and make her, make it look so it matches the vibe of the city or something.
Yeah.
So I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting.
So wait, are you hinting that maybe he deceived her a little bit?
Yeah.
Are
So
you
that's
thinking?
actually my
Oh,
next point is the amnesty program doesn't work.
yeah.
And we've seen that multiple times. This is not a new idea. I definitely have seen this places that the amnesty program is just a complete failure altogether, and that's how um the first order will eventually rise is through all these Imperials that are just getting like basically let go through this new program. They're kind of pulling a kind of like an underground little thing going on here, kind of like the rebels did, where they're all conspiring underneath as well. And it's
Yeah.
just like the same cycle just keeps happening again. The underdog just becomes, they eventually get power again. Because we kind of see a lot, especially like in the earlier episodes where we see the New Republic kind of functioning, that it just isn't really working. It's very idealistic, and even though like they mean well, they're basically throwing out everything that's like actually important and that they
Hmm.
maybe should have learned from, so they're just kind of repeating the same mistakes that the
Right.
previous one did.
Right.
um
Yeah, on the other end of the spectrum. I mean, yeah, like
right.
they're yeah, you're totally because I was thinking the same thing. Like when Dr. Pershing shows up, there's he kind of shows you all of the missteps that are taking place in the New Republic and how people are well, Elia Kane herself, I mean, we got to see firsthand, like, that's clearly not working. She's clearly an agent in there or has her own motives, and the Dr. Pershing is not valued for his research, and there is no plan or real place for him, which there's when you have no purpose, like, what are you supposed to do? You
Right.
That's how you can manipulate somebody like that and get him back into your plan. Whoever I don't even know. That's a whole other thing we can talk about later because I have no idea why she did what she did or who Elia
Yeah.
Kane is working for. It's just crazy. But now, as you said, with Jack Black's character, it's like, are they? Is there? Are there these people who are going into this what's it called, the amnesty
Yeah.
program, right? Yeah, and coming out on the other side as agents and developing their own
Or they're like, they're
connections, or
changed, but then it's like, would a changed like person that was a I don't know, I don't exactly remember what he did in the Empire, but he clearly had some sort of station that, gave him this power. So then he goes and, he comes back and like what a more imperial thing to do than manipulate some election to get in with the now what could have been the queen of this civilization, and now you're like married and now you're in charge of everything.
oh
So
yeah,
it's like that's very convenient that he went from the amnesty program to now ruling a planet basically.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it just seems like a
yeah,
very imperial thing to have happen. So it's almost like, and you kind of get these weird little things about like, him saying it's the perfect civilization and all that. And you just kind of get these weird
well,
vibes from him that like he's not necessarily evil, but he doesn't have that he probably manipulated his way into power in the situation.
he's got his own agenda. I mean, one of the things he says is like, he's like, "We'll recognize Mandalore. I don't care what I got to do here. Fix my problem. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours." And he's worked his way up a very imperial idea, like as you said, through politics and through scheming and stuff. So, um, yeah. Although we're meant to believe, I mean, they pull off a very good, authentic, like they're in love and this is all really good. But you're right. There's these cracks where it's like there's a lot of imperial stuff here that
It's
like I
almost like the New Republic gets lost in the bureaucracy and they're doing everything right into the T. And then that's kind of like their downfall is that they're letting things slip through the cracks in the name of like being the higher power good guy in the situation. They're just like
yeah.
letting they're they're letting their morals get in the way of like actual good. And that's like a very complicated theme that we've seen throughout this whole New Republic thing is that you know like one way or another, it we know that it kind of leads to their demise in a way.
Yeah.
At least it allows the First Order to rise up in the in the Outer Rim and come in eventually. So
And I want to just interject real quick because it goes along with your point there. I've been saying this for a while. I read way back when Star Wars came back, and you wondered like, what was Leia's role? What happened to the New Republic? Why did we just 30 years we just jump right past the New Republic and what happened? They give you one book and it's called Bloodlines, where Leia is talking about centrist and populist and the different factions and like should they have a fleet? The resistance that Leia creates is because the New Republic would not even keep their own fleet. Really, they just sort of
the
set
span, everything.
yeah. I mean, they went to this other end of the spectrum where in which they're nothing. They actually don't really do anything.
They
And
want to be so different from the Empire that they just go polar opposite of
yeah,
everything that the Empire would have done.
right, right. So that was really, yeah. I just as I thought about that, I'm like, okay, that's starting to show us why the New Republic really is not great, and they're making a lot of mistakes. There was one more thing. Oh my god, what was that? Was that in the Ahsoka trail? They show Mon Mothma
Hmm.
at some point. I think that was in the Ahsoka thing, and I
Yeah.
could be wrong, but yeah, there's some cracks there too, which is like this is all not working out very well.
Well, I wonder if that's like their call to action is like the New Republic's not going to be taking care of Thrawn because they don't even have anything. So maybe it's like one of those things where they're like, well, we have to go and do this then because they don't have any defenses. I mean, they're just going to get wiped off the face of the planet if like Thrawn comes in with all these if he unites all of the empire or remnants of the empire and stuff. Like, I mean, to your
Yeah,
point, like if they don't have an army or like a fleet or anything, then it's like maybe maybe that's why Leia ends up organizing the resistance in the first place, and then that kind of
right.
carries on. And obviously, it's like thank God we had this for
Yeah.
we had it for Thrawn, but now we have it for the First Order too. Who
Right, right.
knows?
Well, and something I want to mention. So thanks here to Geek Ledger who popped in here is leaving us some really good comments. But like the New Republic, I agree with this comment, which is that they are focused on moving on from the war as fast as possible, and instead of taking the time and doing it right, they're just like we got to move on, distance ourselves from that, decommission the Imperial fleet, and
Hmm.
decommission our own fleet. Like when they said they're decommissioning the Alliance fleet, I was like, that right there tells you they're going the polar opposite. They will be defenseless. They can't even protect these outer systems who want to come in on their charter. This is not good. Independent systems will then try to rally and get power. And actually, what this does, Cameron, is Mandalore is pretty daggone powerful. And so, as an independent system, if the New Republic is waning in power and they can't really do anything, and people start turning to Mandalore for aid, holy, you get a new power dynamic in the
Yeah.
galaxy. So, yeah,
I wonder how the New Republic's gonna feel about. Maybe that's kind of how it ties in a little bit. If the New Republic sees that Mandalore is like coming back
yeah,
and they're retaking it, and then flash forward a couple years and the next season maybe we see that they're maybe they do end up having like this little galactic civil war between they're busy fighting each other, meanwhile Thrawn's out here about to take over and coming
right.
back. And
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so crazy. Alright, what else you got? I know you got some more notes
let's see.
there.
Yep.
This is great. Man, more to this episode. I honestly getting more out of this. I didn't even notice a stormtrooper, by the way. I went and clicked back
Oh
through.
really?
You're so right. He's standing back there and he's wearing armor and he looks
Yep.
all, it's so
He's all
crazy.
decadent.
Yeah.
um I found it interesting that the droids, like they have the plot point of the droids being such a major role in the civilization, and I feel like that's kind of commentary on like us today and being reliant on electronics and machines and stuff. Because like
Yeah.
a lot of times, if you think about it, if like everything got shut down today, I don't know if we'd be able to function in a proper way. Like we're so reliant on so much stuff, so it
Yeah.
is kind of like commentary on that in a way. So
Yeah.
that's thought that was interesting.
No, yeah, it is because they're yeah, they become dependent, so much on the different, services and things that are provided, and that's Christopher Lloyd's character, right, is kind of, is having some
Yep.
issues with that, so, yeah, but
I like that the Ugnaughts are back. That's kind of cool that we get to
oh
see
my
more of them.
I have spoken. I was
Hmm.
so happy to hear I have spoken. That actually kinda made the episode for me when he
Yeah,
stepped in and talked to them, and I was like, "Quill lives on. This is awesome." He's, you know, like, carrying on his story because I love Quill so much that I was like, to see the Ugnaughts here, to see them give him respect because I thought they were, like, at first gonna make them the because they're doing a lot of the work, right?
kind
They're
of like the
working.
underground, like yeah, like worker class, like they just in all honesty, correct me if I'm wrong, they're kind of more like if you want to compare it to fantasy, they're kind of like dwarves in the way that they're like, they
Mm,
have, they're very people know that like in fantasy dwarves make like the best gear and armor
yeah.
and stuff like that. So, but in this universe, it's like the opposite where they're making great tech and they know how to like build things and it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
no one would ever question yeah, your craftsmanship on a like, we know Quill was ever able to fix IG
I
and get
know, the
him up and running again. So,
IG-11, like, it's so their reputation that was it was insulting the way Bo started off the conversation, and they
right.
actually both make missteps, which is kind of cool, like, the way she approaches things is different than him, and sometimes what she does works, and sometimes what he does works, and so they were
Kind of where we get into the
learning.
buddy cop aspect of this
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yep, yep.
But,
So,
yeah, so thought that was cool. I said he was coming in clutch, knowing all the lingo and how to do it, so that was
yes.
a cool little payoff that, like, yeah, he already knew what to do, he knew what they were. He made his own mistakes with his old friend as well, and he's learned from that.
Right.
Um, so, that's good.
Good, good.
I also really liked the lighting on this is more of a film,
Perfect,
note.
yeah.
I liked the lighting on the droids. I thought the CG on the droids was really sick. Like the way,
Yeah.
especially at night, the lights were all reflecting off of them. I feel like in a lot of the older movies, we see them and they look kind of matte, and you don't really see
Mhm.
them reflect that much. Maybe this is just from memory,
Yeah.
but I feel like on this, with all the colorful lighting in the city and like how it was kind of dark and they all look like glossy and cool. I don't know. It's just really cool because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they were all CG. Maybe they had like a physical reference for them standing there, but
Oh, gotcha.
other than that, they seem to be CG
Yeah,
for the
that's a
most
good
part.
point.
But
That's good. I'm looking at them right now, like the battle droids and different
mhm.
things, and then yeah, for sure. And I know, so you're right. Those probably are maybe some of those are CG, or maybe they have some stand-ins or whatever. 'Cause also when they're walking, yeah, for sure. Um, and there's got to be a combination of real ones though, because once they get to that droid bar, like a lot of those that's
Yeah,
beautiful. That whole, I mean,
I
I could
think
sit there and
the dead super battle droid was probably real when he was just laying there. That was probably real. And then I feel like like you said, the droid bar was probably mostly real, if not all. So
yeah, yeah,
um,
that was really cool. I was
yeah,
waiting for them to say, "We don't serve your kind." Like, when they walk in, I was like, they're gonna say, "Hey, sorry, we don't serve your kind here," and they,
right.
didn't quite go that far. I feel like they wanted to, but yeah.
One of my biggest notes was this whole episode feels like a video game side quest. Um,
Yeah.
and how I hope that it leads to like a bigger picture thing. Obviously maybe we get some closure on Din's obsession with killing droids and like his hatred for droids.
Mhm, mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, just
other than the last 5 minutes I feel like everything other than the last like 5 minutes is like the last 5 minutes is obviously something huge, like where
right,
she gets the dark saber and stuff. That's obviously a big point in the show, but to
right,
somebody just kind of casually watching, the rest of it is kind of does feel like a video game side quest where they have to do this thing in order to achieve the thing they actually want to do.
right,
So
right. You can't even get access to them unless you come do this thing for us, and
right,
then you're moving through the level. Yeah, and the only thing that moving through this level or this side quest does is show you more about Amnesty Program, show you more about, like, tying us back to separatist. This Christopher Lloyd is a separatist, and you then have, like, the New Republic, and we've been talking this whole time about their dynamic and how they're allowing things to go on or not allowing them to go on, or how much they're involved or not involved. It's been, yeah, hit or miss with that. So yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, it's kind of a commentary on that, and then we get to the end, which is, I mean, I also too was a good dynamic between Bo and Din. I did like seeing them work together and have their moments. Because Grogu just
he's gone.
stays with the queen. He's just helping. He's force
Uh huh.
pushing her polo game or whatever they were playing there. Like,
I had that
it's
they definitely had a
crazy.
good cop bad cop trope going on during that, where like Mando or Din was like trying to like I'm gonna pull your memory circuit out and like blah blah blah, and then she's like,
Oh yeah,
chill bro, like what are you doing?
yeah,
Like jeez,
yeah,
don't
yeah.
gotta be so hostile.
Oh, that was
She has no idea about his past
right,
either, so
right,
she probably just thinks he's crazy. Like she doesn't, I don't think she knows that like he was attacked by droids during the Clone Wars as a child and stuff, so like she probably just thinks he's going off the handle here, but we kind of know as the viewer that
true,
he has some trauma with droids and some mistrust.
right.
But yeah, So,
Yeah, big time.
let's see. I thought it was funny that they
Oh,
kept the, droid, the super battle droid in a freezer like a cadaver. Pull him out of
yeah,
cold
yeah,
storage. I
that
thought that
was
was
good.
funny.
Right. I want to, yeah. While we're still on the droids, too, that droid bar. This being Star Wars Celebration today, Cameron. If it's ever nearby, I'm taking you. I'm gonna buy you a
I
ticket,
wanna
and we're
go.
going. Okay. I want to bring a whole group of people with me. Lottie and I have been talking about this, and I cannot wait to take her there. But this episode reminded me when you go in that droid bar, there's a part of Celebration which is it's a room with just all the
Hmm.
astromechs. The droid builders have their own room, their own thing. You walk through this maze of just these droids that are built that could literally that are probably used on like I have a feeling that if you're a droid builder and you wanted maybe there's a way in which to just say, "Hey, is my droid good enough to be on the show? Can it do its thing? Can we have some droid
We had
operators
some
in
unique
there
looking ones,
working
so, I
on this
mean,
stuff?"
like, some of those look
Yeah.
like they coulda just been, like, straight out of, like, somebody's fanfic and, like, they made them just on the side,
Yeah.
like, wouldn't it be cool if R2 was, like, beefed up and, like, that's, like, the one, like, his
Yeah.
head was off the ground and I don't know. I saw that one, but
Yeah, it was well, and sort of like remember when they needed a bunch of
mhm,
stormtroopers very quickly for Mandalorian season 1, they pulled in the 501st and said, "These guys are good, we don't have to really" they wanna be in Star Wars,
we need them.
and it was a
Right.
win-win, yeah, so if you're a droid builder and you're like, "Yes, I want my droid in Star Wars," I don't care what you do with it, take it, I mean, if it
Especially
gets
if it's
banged
just
up or
sitting in the
shot, it's
background, you
fine.
know, like, if it doesn't even have to really work, like, if it
Right.
works, that's probably a plus, but, like
Cameron, I would build a droid for 5 years, spend thousands of dollars on it, let them go in there and blow it up just
yeah.
to see it happen, and if it as
I
long
was
as it
gonna
made
say,
the cut,
be
I'd be
like, "They
like,
blew up
"Let's
my
go."
droid, it didn't even make it.
It's
Dang it,
that would be
dang it."
horrible.
At
Oh,
least you got to be on set, that would be
god.
cool, though.
Yeah, true,
It was
but
Commissioner Hellgate all along, kinda like Agatha all along.
yeah.
So, that's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
But, I have a longer talking point here that we can get into a little bit that's more in depth about, like,
Yeah.
where the se I've seen this be a few YouTube video thumbnails and titles, but it's like, um, where the separatist right all along, like, if you look at it from their point of view, so,
Mm,
like, we talk about the corrupt republic, like, we were just talking about that, like, about how the new republic's kinda
yep,
messing up, and the old republic from a point of view of a normal person in the galaxy, like, if you have a government of any kind where the chancellor, the somebody who was elected is just like, "I am now the ruler," like, from that normal person's point of view, that looks very much like a corrupt government, like, okay, they made it possible for this one dude to take over, and now we have an empire. So if you think about it like
yeah,
that, I can totally see how, like, he felt at the time. Like, you can kinda see from his point of view, I have in quotes, "from a certain point of view," that, like,
right,
yeah, maybe the Separatists were a better option for him than, like, if you knew what all this was going on, you had Count Dooku say, like, "I'm literally working with the guy that's about to take over the galactic government," and he's, like, telling people that, and then you're like, "Oh,
right,
yeah, well, of course I'm gonna be with the Separatists, like, why would I wanna be with this government that's about to get taken over and about to do all this stuff?" So, you can kind of understand where the separatists were coming from if you look at it from there, or like people that sympathize with them. Obviously, we know from the Clone Wars that they didn't exactly have everyone's like best in heart there or anything, but you
yeah,
can
yeah,
see, like, if you look at it from that specific point, you can see how somebody could be tempted to be like, I wanna go with them. I don't wanna go with the Republic anymore. Like, why would I do that? Like, from the Jedi's point of view, I mean, like, if you hear that the Jedi are just out killing people and that they're, like, basically the army of the Republic and that they're corrupt too and they're
yeah.
losing their way, and then you hear about, all these things going on at the Jedi Temple. So, it's kind of,
Well, one of the interesting things, yeah, about the separatists is like, let's say they want to separate and they want to create their own system. It was basically sort of like, no, no, no. I mean, there was no way in which you
right.
could do that, like legal, like no, we're like that. We're going to fight to keep that control, and that is the sort of weird thing. And when you think of like I don't know, international relationships or politics or whatever, if some countries just sort of are a portion of a country sort of like kind of want to be our own thing. And we want to be recognized as this sovereign group, and that the group who controls those resources and those systems is sort of like absolutely not. You start to go, oh, that's really what that's talking about, and there's reasons why too. Like in the Clone Wars, Dave Filoni, they go over some of the reasons why the Separatists have good
Mhm.
points about stuff, and you're like, Okay, kinda, there's big debates that happen, like, I forget what the guy's name is, but different senators will interact with other senators or, separatists, and they talk about that. The politics gets pretty
I mean,
complex.
we
So,
know
yeah,
that
that was
who I mean, I guess I don't know for sure, but we know that eventually the Separatist gets commandeered by Palpatine, so it doesn't really matter whatever the
yeah,
main goal at the beginning was. Maybe this was the opportunity. He's like, these people are trying to separate. Let me just bounce over there as my other persona, and then I can also be over here.
right,
So I mean, maybe that's just my own little epiphany there, but it's just like it makes sense that maybe it was an opportunistic thing, like he was scheming all along, but then he was like this could work. Like, let me just back both parties here, and then regardless of what happens, I kind of win. So,
right, yeah, good point. Yeah, that's a good one. I was neat that they brought up the separatist situation because they're trying to talk about like, okay, the Empire's gone, New Republic's here. What about the separatist? What about the Jedi? With these different factions, these big ruling factions, and now you got
mhm.
Mandalore, who during the Clone Wars and during the the rise of the Empire, they were an independent system. They were doing their own thing. They were like, no, we're not a part of this, but yet the Republic wants them to kind of help pull more systems in. So they're the next biggest political group or faction that has a lot of power. And so I kind of keep forgetting because they're so fractured and divided. But you're like, wait a second, Mandalore was a big deal in the Clone Wars, and so it's a nice tie back to
Yeah.
that, I guess. So
One of my
yeah,
other things here, I just thought it was funny that Hellgate is getting sent to a moon called Paraquat. I just thought that was
Paraquat,
funny.
yeah,
Funny word.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it is. I didn't know if I've yet to go do all the Easter eggs, and I'm like, I'm sure there's some reason for like the
right.
naming of some of
I
these
thought that
things.
was. I'm like,
That
so
I
was that just like one of those names? Like, we gotta name it something. I don't know. We're never gonna go there. It's just a silly little moon. So why not just call it a funny name? I don't know. But
yeah,
um, and then the domes.
yep.
Another thing that kind of stuck out to me. This is a last minute one where the domes of that city very much resemble the domes on Mandalore. So it's kind of like the same kind of looking planet. Obviously, the Mandalorian one was giant and metal and not clear and glass and stuff like that. But it is funny that they went to a planet that very much resembles what Mandalore was like at one point, where it's just domes, and then the outside of the city is like just nature and stuff. But then they have these giant cities that are domed in.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, it was they do that a lot. So when in Rebels, I remember when I was showing Lottie, like you would go from planet to planet and you would see these like everything had sort of a nice it's not what you think like because you go to Coruscant and the whole freaking planet is like
Hmm.
one big city and it's just overwhelming and everywhere you look it's crazy. But when you go to these different like Lothal has its central capital city and it's a lot of them are dome like or they have some big feature that stands out and stuff. Yes, that was really cool too. And Mandalore definitely has that going for it.
The
So
last
yeah, it's
note that
cool.
I
It's
have
good.
on here before I had to stop was that I thought it was cool that
Yeah.
Grogu got a little knighthood. And I'm like, is that like a teasing of
Oh,
like a Jedi knighthood? Or is that like kind of like just a parallel of like he's not a Jedi knight, but he is a knight now? It's like, maybe in the
right,
future
right.
we'll see him getting knighted as a Jedi knight. But
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, he's the future. I mean, Grogu is the future, and so I always think when I see these episodes, I'm like, I'm seeing Grogu go out and experience all these different individuals. So when we get, 10 years from now, Grogu's grown up and he's 300 years old, and we're well beyond the Ray series, and Grogu's still out there doing his thing. We can recall back all of these old memories and times, and I just feel like we're getting to see his
this
childhood. He's
this
growing
kid's
up, and
resume is stacked. He's gonna have so much experience.
it's
He's like, oh, I remember when this happened with me and my dad. Like, you're not gonna trick
yeah,
me or
yeah.
whatever. It's like,
Right, yeah, I
because
was on Blazier 15 and
even
I
though he
know what's
can't
up.
talk, he's clearly taking in the information still. So it's cool that he's like a fly on the wall for all
Yes.
these like their major world events, kind of like Bo-Katan getting the dark saber. Like he could just be like, yeah, I remember when that happened. Like now I have it or whatever ends up happening or whatever. So
Yeah, right. I mean, really, that's they've been saying so they said it today at Star Wars Celebration, they're like, what do they call her? Mommy Mando or
yeah,
something? They were
where
calling
she's
her
like the
and I was like,
the
"Oh
reluctant
my."
mother of the the group now. I
Right,
think it's so
yeah,
funny.
yeah, which is crazy.
Another thing I wanted to
So
ask you about is I've been hearing things about the true wielder or the true rightful heir of the dark saber, and about how
Yeah,
like it went from we know Maul won it fair and square. So we know for a fact
yeah,
Maul won it. But then the person who actually destroyed like killed Maul, or like not killed him, but like defeated him in combat first was Palpatine. So technically speaking,
yeah,
Palpatine would have been the owner of the dark saber, and
owner.
then we know that Darth Vader killed him, so technically it would pass to Darth Vader, and then Darth
Yeah,
Vader, since he died, his next of kin would have been Luke. So Luke is technically, if you want to go like, obviously our characters don't know this, they don't know what happened,
yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
technically speaking, Luke should technicnically be the wielder of the dark
yeah.
saber if you
It's
want to go by the actual rules that they set forward.
right, and even like so, because it reminds you a lot of like if you with that logic and those rules or whatever, it's like the
Hmm.
Elder Wand. You know who disarmed, who defeated who, and keeping track of that really
Yeah.
specifically is interesting. So yeah, that is crazy to think. I know I've seen some of those theories and debates about like who does this actually belong to because it took Din really saying like, hey, I mean, because of their creed or the code here, she took up the saber when I was
Yeah.
defeated. So,
If he's gonna
yeah,
bounce that
it's
technicality over
wild.
there, then it's like, well, technically, it's not even. It shouldn't even. I like that he's like giving it to her, um, but at the same time, it's almost like my main concern about the episode, because I see that IGN gave this episode a 6, which isn't very good,
Oh, yeah, okay.
out of
Okay.
10. So like, I feel like maybe it's, in my opinion, it's like a 7, but
Yeah.
I almost get worried that.
Yeah.
My question is, obviously, it's, I think we'll have a lot more answered by the end of the actual season, but my worry is that is our main character Din gonna get a backseat to another Mandalorian? So it's like, because we're giving the old, basically what in these universes like the ultimate weapon in this kind of timeline, or we're giving it to somebody else that's not our main character. It made sense when Din got it because he was our main character of the series. So it's like, oh yeah, of course our main character should have the coolest, weapon and stuff like that. And then we're realizing that, maybe he's not leadership material. He's a good second in command, but he's not really leadership material. So it is weird that our
Yeah.
main character of a show isn't gonna be the main guy. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like it's gonna be him and Bo as like a duo now instead
Right.
of, so it's just interesting. I
I
don't know if I like it or not. I definitely don't hate it. It's just different.
It's very yeah, I know what you're saying because it feels like once Bo steps in, she overshadows him quite a bit, and there's a lot of just this is almost like turning into
Right.
her show, and like as if Grogu and Din are sort of there along with her, watching her again, witnessing a lot of this, and it was first his story about how to walk the way. He has a foundling, how to get that foundling back to the Jedi, and then now foundling is back with me, and now it's about like trying to redeem himself. So
It's
his
done.
redemption arc is done. I was like, "Whoa, that happened fast." And so then it moves quickly on to uniting Mandalore. So they're covering a lot of ground, but then I was like, "Yeah,
They clearly aren't going the
where does this
way,
go for
yeah, they clearly
Din?"
aren't going the way of he's going to unite it, at least not obviously, unless something happens where, you know, I hope it doesn't happen, but Bo dies or something like that, and, like, whatever, where
Right,
he's like, "Okay, in her honor, I'm gonna do this," or something. He just doesn't seem like the
right,
guy, you know
right.
what I mean? Like, they kinda made his
See,
character like a, I would love a reluctant hero and a reluctant leader because those are always the best kind. But at the same time, it's
yeah,
like he doesn't give off the vibe that he wants literally anything to do with any sort of leadership position. He's totally content with just being like, like either second in command or just like a backup person for the main leader, which is why like he doesn't really have any ambition. Because if he did, we would have seen him like try to take down the armor at some point to be like the head honcho there if he had any ambition at all.
right,
So let alone being the entire leader of a planet, like he just doesn't seem like he wants that.
right. And so if okay, the big picture, what I'm seeing here is that Din is a traveling, sort of wandering spirit. He's gonna move around the galaxy. I think once they unite Mandalore, he will have another quest. I feel like he's the person who's gonna connect us back to the Ahsoka series and this other series and this different thing. he's almost like this bouncing around tie through. He's got some relationships with the New Republic. He's got some relationships with Ahsoka, Mandalore, the Jedi, even Luke a little bit. So he seems to know a lot of people. And I kind of think Mandalore is going to be united. This faction, that this force to be reckoned with in the galaxy, enter Thrawn, and then Ahsoka needs Din to get Mandalore to rally to fight Thrawn. But his overall, like, the Mandalorian has evolved into so much more that he is playing with these bigger. We're following him, and he's just this lowly Mandalorian who's actually really freaking
Mhm.
cool and walking the way of Mandalore, and happens to have like a foundling who is Grogu, who is awesome. But the rest of them are royals. They're big, well-known Mandalorians, and he's just this
I guess
guy
it is nice.
making his way through
Yeah, I
the
think it is
galaxy.
nice. And now that you put it that way, it is like nice to not always have your main character be the man. You know what I mean? Like the guy. Because I feel like we get that a
Yeah,
lot in pop culture and stuff. And like every main character and like pretty much any Star Wars has been the guy. Um, so in a way, I
right.
guess it is nice because that does free him up to do a lot. Whereas if he was the leader, he couldn't just go off to help Luke. He couldn't just go off to help Ahsoka.
Yeah,
Like I mean, you could make him do that, I guess. But like, if you're the leader of a
yeah, but
planet, you can't just go
it
off
wouldn't feel
on a
right.
whim to go help, or like, you gotta then you got the whole thing of like, is it the best interest of his people? Is it the best? So you're kind of freeing him up to be like the middleman that has to do the convincing, opposed to like, who knows? Maybe she gives him a role of like a close advisor because clearly they're close. Like they started out as kind of
Yeah,
adversaries because she was kind of like, still mad about the dark saber thing and like confused and conflicted. Like, do I have to kill him? I think she was like legit at one point considering, am I going to have to fight him and kill him in order to get this thing and make this whole thing happen? But then, that technicality, and then she gets it. So I think she's very happy about that, that she doesn't have to go through with all that. So, it
yeah,
clearly he proved himself as like someone who was just totally happy to take backseat to her whole deal that she's got going on. Like he's not a threat. He's literally just like, you can
right.
take it. Like technically, I'm gonna spin
Uh,
this so that way you technically did it. And like he knows how to
yeah,
manipulate these
yeah,
other Mandalorians into hearing their culture, kind of like what he did with the Ugnaughts of like, okay, I'll speak your language here for a
right.
second. If you want to go down that road,
Yeah, yeah.
technically she defeated the person that defeated me. So
Right, right, and that was cool. I'm glad he did that, and I think you're right, though. It's sort of like what you expect when we expected when we started off was that this guy was gonna walk the way of Mandalore, be an inspiration to all, and unite all Mandalorians, got the dark saber, and it's like, "Oh, it does not go that way," but I'm kinda okay with it, and it makes more sense because, on the other hand, it's sort of like if you're gonna bring Bo-Katan and she's still alive and around, which they did once they brought Bo-Katan in, you're like, "Well, she's the freaking
mhm.
leader?" That's gonna be kinda weird if you know, if he takes over, and I don't know. It was, so I'm yeah, it's been good the way that they're doing it, but I do wonder what his role is going forward in the big Mandoverse. So, but man, um, great freaking thoughts, Cameron. This is good. I did not think I'd be getting this much out of the episode, but I've only seen it once actually. So as I was because I got carried away with Star
Yeah,
Wars
for sure.
Celebration,
There's some other stuff
but
going on at the moment.
um, yeah, and I need to go back and rewatch this stuff for the things like the New Republic connections and the little stuff with the Separatist and the Imperial connection. As you said, I didn't even notice the stormtroopers. I went back and I'm looking at all the droids and all the different things that were like totally Imperial. And who is this guy?
It's almost
He's
like they're
Jack
hiding
Black
in
is a
plain
sneaky
sight
dude.
of like no wonder they came back. It's like
Right.
people were just so complacent that they let these things slide. They're trying so hard to destroy everything about them, but yet they're letting the people that embraced them the most just kind of go, like take a class or two for a couple of years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, you got to
Yeah.
sleep in these barracks and lie to a droid a couple times, and then you're good and you're free and you can go like take over a planet if you want. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
such a
Yeah. Yeah.
flawed
Yeah.
system. Like, I don't know.
It seems crazy. I actually, in a follow up episode, I want to talk. I get a couple transmissions. I want to give a shout out to my buddy Andrew who
No,
sent
I
me
know
something
Andrew.
about General, yeah, Pride, General Pride, and he was like, I don't know if it's General or not, but in the Rise of Skywalker, Pride is one of those guys who steps up, and you're like,
Hmm.
where's this guy from? He's been a part of the First Order, but yet has he seems to know about the Sith Eternals. He's not really First Order. So some of these people who are right in front of us, and Jack Black might be one of them, they know about other things going on and they're sleeper agents or
It's
something. You know
almost
what I
like one
mean?
of
They're
those, like, yeah,
waiting.
like exactly, sleeper agents of like, there's like an underground system. You go take over that quadrant. You go take over that quadrant.
Yeah,
We got to have a presence here. So when it's time, we can just
let's be
pop up
ready.
and then we're
Yeah.
good. So it's maybe there's a lot.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
I don't know. Just talking about it, it's like, dang, there's a lot more going on underneath the surface than maybe you'd initially think.
Yeah. And it's just it's yeah, because they have to tie those together. They got to tie the First Order to the Final Order, to the Sith fleet, to this Imperial remnant with Thrawn. It all has to kind of make sense, and there has to be some logic as to like, how do we get to the Rise of Skywalker and then
Hmm.
move beyond it, which I'm excited about. So, but I am almost. I've drank 3 different drinks here to keep the voice lubricated. So thanks for hanging in there with me on this. I was like, I will be darned if I don't get this collaboration in with Cameron, because I definitely, been meaning to for a couple weeks now, as we said at the
We
start
did
of the
it.
show. So we did it, man. Yeah. Any overall last final thought here, just from you about the Mandalorian, besides this episode, and even just including it in, like, how do you? Has it felt slow, fast? Do you feel complete? Does it feel as exciting? What's your overall score feeling on it? As because I think the last 2 episodes are gonna, we obviously have to take it
Yeah.
as a whole season once it's all out, but just interesting to just dissect it here in the
I
moment.
think this episode, I still give it a 7 out of 10. If like 10 being season finale of season 2, where Luke shows up, that's a 10 for me. As far as
Yeah,
like, at
yeah.
least as far as Mandalorian goes, and like the shows that we've seen so far, that was a 10 because that was just crazy, and unexpected at the time. So it's one of those things. So I'd give it like a 7 if season 2 season finale was, the bar, I guess. Um,
Right.
Overall thoughts of the season as a whole so far, I think it's good. It's entertaining. I would have liked. I, there's a fine line between fan service and just epic things happening. I feel like there haven't been so many epic things happening. So I feel like kind of what Katie Sackhoff said of like they're waiting. Like there's still a bunch of stuff that's about to happen.
Mhm.
I don't want to get my hopes up too
Right.
bad because then it's going to be like her definition of epic things might not be what I'm thinking. So I am a little hesitant to be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's all coming. Like we're about to go crazy here. So I don't know. I like this season. I'm excited to see where it goes. I do wish that there was, it's so weird to say this, but I wish there was more happening and I wish the episodes were a little longer. I don't like how they're only like barely 45
Oh,
minutes.
I know.
But then you get into
Right.
the weird
Right.
space of like, okay, with the extra 15 minutes to make it an hour, is that worth it? Is it good 15 minutes? So it's just one of those things like where, maybe asking for an hour, there's only actually a half hour to 45 minutes of good stuff in there, and then the rest is filler. But so maybe they're saving us from that. But at the same time, it's just, we're so used to an hour for this kind of content, or at least 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, and it seems like every
Yeah, it's
season
been
gets a
quick.
little bit shorter to the point where it's like, next season, are we just gonna do a half hour? So, um, so I don't
Right.
know. I'm interested to see where it's going. I see where they're putting little nuggets. I just wish, and it contradicts what we just said. We got to all these places super fast. I wish they would get to where they're going, or at least make it more obvious, because it seems like where it's heading is just taking back Mandalore. But I'm struggling to
Mhm.
see what the conflict's gonna be because
Yeah, what just go
right.
set up shop, right? That's what I was thinking too, like, something must stop them, or I don't know
Right.
what it would be, but
Maybe we see
I feel like
Moff
the next
Gideon
episode
come
we just
back. I don't, supposedly
yeah,
next
that's gotta
episode
be
Ahsoka's gonna be there, so I'm pretty
what?
sure I heard that
Oh my
she's rumored to be
gosh.
in the next episode and all that, and
Oh,
um yeah, so we'll see. I don't know.
wow.
But I mean, we know how rumors go with Star Wars, like sometimes they
Yeah,
don't,
yeah,
sometimes they're just flat out wrong. So I guess take that with a grain of salt. We'll see in a
right.
couple days. But um yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how it goes. I do just wish that Din had a little bit more of an important role besides just taking care of Grogu, which you could argue is the most important role, I guess, in the long term.
Mm,
But
yeah.
yeah, I'm eager to see where it goes.
Yeah, same here, and I think you're right, it's been yeah, they've gotten us to a point where, the whole season I've been kinda like, I didn't expect us to go this quick, but yet we're not really going as quick, and where is it all headed? It's all been tons of question marks. It feels like I don't know, almost like they're just getting us to a big jumping point where we gotta get Ahsoka, and then we've gotta that's gonna really move everything in a different direction. We've gotta not that they're wrapping up here because 'cause they've got a season 4 coming, but it's like you've gotta get some
Momentum
I don't know.
going here.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
kinda seems like
So,
the side quest episodes are slowing down the momentum, whereas, like, sometimes we'll end it on, like, a freaking mythosaur's coming out, and then next thing you know, we're
I know.
getting a bad boy droid, like, locking up in jail. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, we can go from a mythosaur to that, so it just kind of I think that's really my issue now that I just said it out loud. The momentum keeps shifting all over the
yeah,
place of, like, one episode's so epic, and then the next episode is a buddy cop film. So
yeah,
it's like you gotta take
but
them
yeah,
both, I guess,
yeah,
but, like, when you're like, "Oh, man, we're gonna tame a mythosaur," it's like they're alive, and then you
right,
go
right,
back to
right,
just like a small like
yeah,
a Mandalorian season 1 sort of feel. So, it's almost like instead
right.
of just building straight up, we're going like kinda like a little wave going around here and
Yeah, and to be honest with you, so when I first watched Rebels, I felt the way I'm feeling now, sort of like, "All right, yeah, we get
mhm.
these moments, tons of momentum, and then we, like, really dies off." But when I think back on it now, having seen all of it, I'm like, "Oh, it's freaking awesome." All I can talk about is how awesome it ultimately was. So, we get caught up in the moment here going like, "All right, we gotta, we're feeling like this right now, but we're gonna see where that
That goes back to
ends."
what I was saying
Where's the
about it
end
feeling
point
kinda
for
like an animated series, like, where it's
Yeah, yeah,
that's what it feels like a lot, but of
right, right. All right. Well, hey, dude, thank you so much for popping
course.
in here. This has been freaking awesome. I hope to have you back on. And next time I'm gonna have my voice and I'm gonna have the energy because I am like coming out of it. I was just there's no way I wasn't gonna cover Star Wars Celebration and talk about this though, because I mean I could have had no voice and I would have figured out like how
Oh,
to
yeah.
type a podcast up and just
I was
have
gonna say
AI
use
read
your
it for me
AI
or something.
voice and just have it go, yeah.
Yeah. Just have it go crazy. So, but hey, Cameron, where can folks I got your links
Yeah,
down in
man.
the description, but where can people find you over there on the
Yeah,
internet?
as you said at the top, I'm a local well, I do more than local, but, cinematographer and director, so, I do film stuff and commercial stuff and, corporate and all that, so my handle is, on Instagram at least, is at Cameron.n.Hansen, um, and that's yeah, pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty much where I post a lot of my work and stuff like that. A lot of my links are already on there,
Yeah.
so if you wanna give me a follow, I'd love to have you, see some of my
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, if you and yeah, and also, I mean, you do amazing. I wanna mention this on your behalf, like, your stuff is great. I love watching you work. I got to see it up close a couple different times, done some work for us over on Up Talking Tolkien, a sick little commercial that's actually on your website too, which is
It's just Cameron
www.cameron
it's the same
n
thing,
hansen
Cameron and Hansen, but no dots, so
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Gotcha, it's perfect. I got that down in the description too, so you guys go check that out. There's my buddy Lane and I are on there, and you made us look better than we are, and
I
it's
gotta
freaking
update that. I
awesome.
have some
So
more
we
work
had a
that I haven't even updated it with yet that we're waiting for to release, so
Oh,
yeah.
really? Yeah. It's cool, man. You do great work. I love it. I love getting your perspective too on like the takes and the film and like the set and all that kind of stuff that you have experience on and you know what
For
that
sure.
looks like or the different types of cuts or what they're doing. I sometimes I get lost in the story and I forget like what is it that's really feeling like Star Wars or that's new and
Yeah,
different. So
man.
it's cool to get those perspectives. So all right, guys. Hey, thanks everybody so much. Please go follow Cameron, and we'll be back. Lottie and I'll be back with some more. Once I'm gonna give the voice a break here, and then maybe Sunday we'll do another recap on Star Wars Celebration. It's going. You can hear it going. I'm starting to get like a rubber duck right now. I'm starting to squeak. So, anyways, again, thanks to everybody, and as always, friends, may the force